What is the most hurtful thing a medical professional has ever said to you? My female doctor, now retired, once told me I had great birthing hips. I'm a male. When I was in middle school until 10th grade, I would get violent nausea anytime I got hungry. It felt like my stomach was on fire, and I would miss a lot of school from feeling like crap, although I was a good student and wasn't falling behind in any way. After a lot of fighting with my mother, who accused me of exaggerating, she agrees to take me to a gastroenterologist to be checked out. Before agreeing to do an endoscopy, the gastro accused me of exaggerating because I was a teen girl, and that's just apparently what young women do. He suggested I was just making up these symptoms for attention, and then asked me point blank if I was lying about my pain level to skip school, and suggested I had a mental health issue I was trying to cover for. I had freaking GERD and severe acid reflux. As confirmed by the endoscopy, he reluctantly agreed to perform on me. Instead of letting it go, the gastro made a point of angrily telling me that I had the stomach of a 80-year-old man and must have been intentionally eating in a way to freak up my stomach. I have a family history of stomach problems and GERD. I don't understand why it was so implausible that my brother could have acid reflux at a young age, but I must be a hysterical liar when I claim to have the same symptoms in my teens. When I was about 4, I got diagnosed with child asthma. Doctor told my mum it was her fault because she decided to have a child despite having asthma herself. In the year, about 6 months pregnant, with heavy spotting and no noticeable fetal movement, idiot doctor is unable to find the baby's heartbeat, just looks up at me and says, "Yep, probably dead in there." He couldn't possibly have said it in a more casual, offhand manner. Note, I delivered my son 3 months later, perfectly healthy. Wife took our 2-year-old daughter to the doctor because she was sick and her behavior seemed to be changing. She couldn't eat or drink. Our local doctor said that's how kids are sometimes and just monitor her behavior. As we were pretty sure there was something definitely wrong, we kept seeing different doctors. Last one said we were acting hysterically and our behavior were a problem. 5 days later our daughter seemed to have a seizure, so we went to the hospital. Our daughter had a brain tumor and the doctor at the hospital said this should have been recognized sooner. He was astounded that we've seen 5 doctors all blaming us as parents to just be acting up over nothing. Different kind of doctor, but a dentist, after poking that sharp piece of steel into my not dead yet gums. Oh come on, it doesn't hurt that much. After I jumped and said ow, I looked at him, got up and walked out. I now have a very nice dentist. He asked me if I felt lonely. I said I don't think of myself as lonely. He wrote down lonely and underlined it. I don't know why, but this strikes me as particularly funny, as if the doctor looked at you, narrowed his eyes and then wrote it and underlined the word. I went to get a lump on my groin checked out and had to remove my underpants. The doctor started a whole speech about sizes and everything, which isn't what I went there for. Similar thing happened to me when I was 14. I was getting a physical exam and during the turn and cough portion of the exam my doctor said, "Don't worry, it'll grow more." That stung a little bit. He said I should be happy carrying around a bit of weight, because in drought the fattest cows die last. Seriously, WTF. First hospital visit. There's nothing wrong with your foot. Now get your shoe back on and get back to work, you freaking malingerer. After a solely visual inspection. 2 days of getting smoked all day long. Second hospital visit. Why are you walking on that foot? It's obviously broken. Someone get that soldier some crutches. It's all between your ears after missing at least 1, but probably 2 crippling vitamin deficiencies by not ordering the right test. It took me 2.5 years of thinking I was lazy and pathetic before I went to another doctor and got diagnosed. Was having digestive issues I eventually learned were a result of my undiagnosed cancer. Doctor suggested I should wipe better. I went to get an earache checked and the first thing the doctor said was, "Yeah, so I'm gonna put you on some medicine for the ear, but we've gotta do something about your face. Your acne is absolutely terrible. Thanks doc." Getting out of the army, you are 100% healthy. My medical record was about 6 inches thick. Went to a civilian doctor and they were astonished anyone would say that. I am rated 80% disabled. I woke up in the hospital and heard a nurse running out saying he's awake. The doctor comes into the room and tells me to move my toes. I ask them where I am and what's going on. He just gets more insistent that I move your toes. I asked again where I was and that was going on. He almost yells at me, move your toes. I said I am moving my toes, and immediately he says you will never walk again. That's how I found out I was a paraplegic at 21 years old. I had been in a single car wreck and was thrown 70-80 feet from the car and my vertebrae was dislocated and laying next to another one. I don't remember the car wreck, but that exchange with the doctor is burned into my brain, and that was 31 years ago. That is really fricked. I work for hospital billing and I often know before the patient does that they will be permanently paralyzed, because typically they aren't told until they ask or things have calmed down enough for them to be told in an acceptable way. I'm sorry that happened to you. I just don't know how you could be in so much pain being so young. I'm not going to be able to write you a prescription. My response was, you're dipshit. I came in because I was hurt at work, doing heavy construction. I never asked for a prescription in the first place. I had assumed I was vetting an x-ray to see if I had broken anything. I did a video chat service to talk to a doctor for 15 minutes. I told her my symptoms and thoughts since we were low on time. I had been very sick for weeks. Possible urinary tract infection and respiratory infection. Also gave my other ideas from my symptoms. She told me I had valley fever and told me all about it over chat and we got cut off at 15 minutes. I got her final email which should have a prescription in it and was told she actually thought I had somatic symptom disorder, aka that I was making all of this up and was perfectly fine. Her prescription was for a freaking psychologist. She told me in detail about my possible valley fever even though I said I hadn't been to the areas she said it was prevalent. I made an appointment with my normal doctor and had a few tests ran. Had a respiratory infection and a freaking kidney infection, 10 or so days of meds and I was fine. My gosh, I was so angry at that quack. I got the same somatoform balls from a rheumatologist I got sent to for a finger causing me so much pain I could barely use my hand. Went to a hand specialist who did exploratory surgery on this painful lump. Turns out I had Dupuytren's nodule tangled up in a ligament, and that ligament had to be removed and it required a transplant. Somatoform this bastard. You can't be in that much pain. You must have more energy than that. Turns out the lining of my nerves was being destroyed. I was becoming paralyzed, painfully. I had just gone through my second hip surgery following a car accident. The pain was persistent. My doctor said on the bright side you'll qualify for a full hip replacement in 10 years. FML 10 more years of this crap and another surgery? You're too young to have that pain. You're the textbook definition of drug seeking. Then refused to do any further examinations of my feet, which I specifically came in for. No tests performed, just ran her hands over my feet. I was in my 20s and my feet started killing me during workouts runs. Later in the mid-30s, saw a doc and he diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis, arthritis, heel spurs, and a few other things. Finally worked up the courage to work on my mental health problems and asked my doctor for a recommendation to see a therapist. His only response was I'm too poor to get a therapist since my health insurance sucked. That was a bad day. When I had a kidney stone, why did you come to the air? Why didn't you take Tylenol or something? This is a waste of resources. He made me cry. My ex used to tell me that I was a waste of resources all the time because I'd constantly be making doctor's appointments to figure out what was wrong. He felt pretty bad when I told him I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease a couple years later. My doctor suggesting that I have a baby because my nether regions were too tight and causing discomfort during lovemaking. Yes, crap a screaming ham and see if that increases my pleasure. From age 13 to 24 I suffered with horrible periods, menstrual cramps from heck, back pain, headaches and bleeding so bad I thought I was bleeding to death a few times. Every gyn I saw assured me that all of that will go away once I had a baby. It didn't. It turns out that having a baby does not help endometriosis and ovarian cysts at. As a doctor I gotta tell you something that not many people are willing to admit. About 10-15% of all health professionals I have met during my time in school are just awful human beings who don't belong in medicine. They lie, cheat, and just don't care about people. On the flip side, you have about 15% of some of the greatest doctors you ever met who follow up with you and care for you like you are their own family. 70% fall somewhere in the middle. So the truth I'm getting at is that being a doctor is not just the pursuit of those who care for others, but a representation of how our society is as a whole. Not psychologically hurtful necessarily, but the most terrifying thing I've ever been told. We're going to have to defibrillate you and we don't have time to sedate you. They rolled the crash cart with paddles into my room and I said, get that thing the frick away from me, and almost cried. My mom was in the room with me and was absolutely hysterical. Thankfully, a cardiologist was able to look at my EKG in the nick of time and determined my heart rhythm was stable enough for me to just be transferred to a room for further evaluation without defibrillation. When I was 21, I went to the doctor for a checkup. The doctor asks me to lift my shirt and I do. He immediately says egg and makes a look of disgust on his face. I was an idiot and was gaining weight too quickly. Due to this, I had stretch marks. I've lost the weight and am normal weight now, but I still can't shake that moment. This was 8 years ago. Before surgery on my eye knee, the nurse was telling me how her daughter and I went to the same high school. She then peeked under my gown to look at my dong and let out a small laugh. I was more shocked than offended, but she didn't have to laugh or look at my junk. When I was like 5-8, mom took me to the dentist and he was stabbing above and under my tongue and the inside of my cheeks, and he said, if you cry I am going to start over. I started going to a dentist that had come highly recommended by a few different people. When I asked him about the possibility of straightening my front teeth, he said, well, you'll never be on the cover of Vogue, but I think we can help you out. I stopped going to him a few appointments later when he got mad at me for telling him that the filling he did months ago still really hurt. I stopped going to a dentist when I said I think the dentist made a mistake on my last filling 6 months ago. It's really uncomfortable. The hygienist told me the dentist doesn't make mistakes. My filling fell out 2 months later. To my wife, about 8 weeks pregnant at an oncologist office after Onjin saw polyp she wanted someone to look at. Doctor, you need to have a hysterectomy immediately. Us, shouldn't we wait till the biopsy results come back? Doctor, no. In my opinion, if you want to live you need to have a hysterectomy immediately. Turns out it was benign. Discoloration is normal for Pacific Islanders during pregnancy. Butthole got results from biopsy next day. We were told results till following week. And here I have the opposite problem. Have a legit medical reason for needing a hysterectomy, but no doctor will agree to it because they don't want to take my choices away. I'd really like to know what choices they're talking about because I'm infertile. What are you going to do if your boyfriend would rather you had bigger boobs? Said by the doctor to 15-year-old me. I was getting a consultation for a breast reduction because sporting G-cup was a freaking nightmare. Still got it. No regrets. Not to me, but to my mom. Doctor said, oh, just let him hide in the bathroom. I hid in the bathroom when I got really bad headaches that turned out to be due to a brain tumor. Doc must have assumed I was masturbating. Hiding in the bathroom is common for people who get migraines. Me, when I was 9, about to go under anesthesia for the first time ever for oral surgery, and being extremely scared. Nurse, you need to grow up. I've had kids half your age, not be as much a scaredy cat as you. My mother was not, by any means, a helicopter parent, but the thrashing she gave that nurse, the other nurse who chuckled at it, and the doctor who came in was insane. And then she took me out of that office. The surgery was not a time-sensitive thing, just to fix a soon-to-be impacted adult tooth, and for ice cream. I had the surgery done at a different office with a staff that had far better bedside manners. Doc, I can tell you're incredibly sick by your skin. Me, looks in the mirror, oh no, I always look like this. Doc, no, it's grey and sallow and the heavy dark circles under your eyes. You look clearly very unwell. Me, really, I swear I always look like this without makeup. I really did look exactly how I do on a daily basis. Apparently deathly. It wasn't so much what they said to me, but the staff made me wait 6 hours with a dead organ inside me, acting like I was being a drama queen because I was in so much pain. The suggestion that I had confused a panic attack for a seizure. To clarify, this was my first grand mal seizure. My father had them prior. and my mother witnessed both him having one and myself having mine. According to her, it was identical. I even hit all the textbook marks of having had an epileptic seizure. From the memory loss to the post-ictal fatigue, the emergency room doctor didn't run any tests or examine my family history of epilepsy. He simply noticed the anxiety disorder in my medical history and assumed that I was just having a panic attack, and wrote it off as my only issue being that I'd hit my head. Talking to my psychiatrist later about the incident, he confirmed based only on my account, corroborated with mom's details where I couldn't fill in, that I had definitely had a seizure, and he sent the orders for further testing himself. He also couldn't refrain from saying, what the frick is wrong with this doctor? I'm glad that at least one of my doctors took my seriously. Yup, many epileptics have these blow-off diagnoses. Mine started with absolutely insisting I was doing drugs. They refused to believe me when I told them I never touched a drug. Then they started berating my fiance for putting stress on me. You're 19. You shouldn't be having problems with anxiety. I agree, that's why I'm here, find out what's wrong, you lazy butt. It's unethical for women who have never given birth to a child to get an IUD. You will change your mind about not wanting kids, you are too young. New doctor took my height measurement and jots it down before issuing me a very casual, tall for a woman. I am a bearded man. He was just stating a fact. That height would in fact be tall for a woman. I.F. was in high school seeing the doctor for a sports physical for basketball. I was 140 pounds and 5 feet 9 inches. He told me, you need to lose a few pounds and then you will make the wrestling team, while winking. That comment about my weight as a teenager and has stuck with me for years. Went to the emergency department with my friend who was 9 months pregnant, due any day. The doctor asked which one of us was the pregnant one. My friend was laying down on the chair bed and I was sitting in a chair. I started laughing because I was so mortified. What chronic illness are we sick with today? I was 12 years old. Puberty was kicking my butt. I was depressed and constantly sick because my home life was in shambles. But my mother dressed nice and was a well-known figure in the community, so I was faking the illnesses, I guess. Anytime a kid acts out for attention, I pay attention because it means something is going on. But that doctor just shamed me into the pit of despair. I've had trouble trusting any medical professional since. Hadn't been able to eat in days. Throwing up, constipation for a week and massive stomach pain. Finally my girlfriend convinces me to go to the hospital, get checked into the ear and taken to an examination room. My girlfriend comes with. Male doctor comes in, looks at my chart and says he has to give me an anal examination. Barely given time to even say anything before he has large fingers into my bum in front of my wide-eyed girlfriend. He then says, you have prostatitis. This can happen when you are active love life with multiple partners, and walks out. I've never cheated on anyone and now had to explain that while still being sick. Went and saw my PCP the next day and turns out I had a stomach infection. I don't know what's wrong. What do you want me to do about it? While I was crying on the doctor's table asking that they help me with my pain. I went 10 years with an undiagnosed condition. I was repeatedly told it was just cramps and accused of pill shopping. Turns out I had a cyst the size of a vine fruit that was twisting one of my ovaries. It wasn't just cramps, and it could have gone septic if it ruptured. You jags. This cat is shocked that you haven't liked this video yet. Like it fast so they can calm down. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.